Hello and welcome. I am Scrapperlock, and this is City of Heroes. We're with Liberty Last, level 27, Brute, about 100,000 XP from level 28. We're on the General Z story arc, and we're at our base so that we can just go to whatever zone we want to very quickly and easily. Atlas Park is our destination, where we're going to continue finding evidence against the Sky Raiders. And it's interesting, you can see how like the loading screens are all the old school like 4:3 aspect ratio, because when this game came out, nobody had widescreen monitors. I think I had gotten my first flat screen LCD monitor at that point. I'm pretty sure I had. And I remember when I first got it, I was unhappy with it because it was like so much more luminous than my regular screen that it made things look almost like too contrasty. Now I can't even imagine playing on the old screen CRT monitors anymore because I'm so used to the flat screen. And we've got a Raider Engineer right here. Haha. You are now taunted. And you are now going to be stunned. And you are not going to be able to put out your shield. And that guy, of course, teleported away. So we're looking for 4 bombs and 3 clues. Let's stun him. Come on. And that. Oh, this is a lieutenant. I didn't even think about it. Since the porters like look the same, whether they're lieutenants or not, they're one of the few enemies where the look and the name of the enemy is the same. Oh, this is interesting. This is showing me where the bombs are. They never used to do that. Interesting. And yet there's another bomb on here. I can hear it. Or a clue, and it's not showing me that one. Okay, it's not showing the clues, but it will show the bombs. So Raider Engineer is going to be our target. And off we go. And now we're going to see if we can get the officer. Stun him so he stops moving around. Just get rid of him. Hopefully the AoE takes him out, and it does. And then we finish off the Raider Engineer. And there's another guy downstairs, is there not? Another lieutenant. So I just got done saying that most of the time these guys come in groups of minions and not the lieutenants, but this mission, they've all got lieutenants in them. Alright, let's see if we can stun the Wing Raider before he gets too far away. There it is. You can see that we very quickly can dispatch with lieutenants now, as well as the minions, of course. And look how nice and high our Fury bar is from them. So Fury is generated in 2 ways. 1, when you attack things, your Fury goes up. And 2, when other things attack you, your Fury goes up. I think, somebody check me on this, I think that originally, when they first came out with City of Villains with the Brutes, only being hit actually generated Fury. Come on. And this annoyed the Brutes because some of the Brute classes are based on defense, which makes you miss. And so they were like, yeah, so when my defense is working, my Fury doesn't go up, and if you're a resistance set, your Fury goes up faster than if you're a defense set. And that annoyed them. I don't know if this was in beta or if it actually made it to live. Somebody who remembers, make the comment down below if you remember this. I wasn't playing a Brute at the time when it first happened, so I'm not sure. But I think that with the original formulation of Fury, it was being hit that did it, and then somebody, I don't know if it was Castle or somebody, said, how about if we just make it being attacked? And the Brute said, yes, that's fine, because everybody gets attacked. It's not about, as long as as long as getting attacked. Oh, I missed this guy, didn't I? As long as getting attacked is what does it, then you can gain Fury whether you have good defense or not. People were saying, yeah, if I put my defense enhancements in my defensive power and I get missed more, my Fury doesn't build up. That stinks. I'm making my character better one way, it's making him worse in another way. Most enhancements don't work that way, right? Usually enhancements are only positive. You don't lose effectiveness in something else when you gain accuracy. Are we being ambushed? Or is that just a word balloon? I thought I saw some guys over here. Ah, the word balloon is coming from the jump bot. Oh boy, we don't have any defensive inspirations, really. Oh, is this a Raider Engineer? No, it's not an Assault Raider. Okay, we'll ignore him. We're going to take the jump bot out. The jump bot's quite dangerous when it's purple like this, so we got to make sure we keep it mezzed. So one of the differences between, say, this character with the stunning abilities and, say, super strength or fire, where fire's not really doing any mez, when you're fighting a boss like that, is you don't want to keep switching to the minions or fight the minions instead of the boss if you can mez the boss, right? So this is the big if. Some bosses are resistant enough, and some mezzes will, types of mez, they'll have different types of protection, hold versus stun versus sleep, etc. It may be hard or impossible to actually get the mez to apply to the boss, in which case you go ahead and attack the minions. But if you can get the mez to apply to the boss the way I just did, you want to keep hitting the boss and keep stacking the mez magnitude on top of him, because you want to make sure that you keep that boss mezzed, right? The incoming damage from a boss is so much higher than the incoming damage from a minion, right? That captain just hit me for 107. The minion hit me for 72. A boss would probably hit me for 250, right? They're just so much more powerful that you want to try and keep. The minions don't matter. Right, he did 72 damage, right? Let's just take a look here. If we look at our combat attributes, go into the base and we look at our regeneration rate, we get 14 back a second. So every, 4 seconds, right? Something like that. 5 seconds, we replace the damage. So unless they hit me more than once every 5 seconds, they can't even overcome my regeneration, the minions. But if a boss is doing, say, 210, they can definitely overcome your resistance, so your regeneration. So you just have to you have to figure out exactly how you want to do it. Each archetype and also each power set is going to give you different things, right? So a fire tanker or brute might want to focus primarily on the minions and get them out fast, right, by applying damage over time to them. And then after you apply a bunch of DOTs, damage over time, dots, right, then you turn to the boss and hit him with your single target while the minions are burning. On the other hand, if you've got mez and your mez isn't liable to work against the boss because it's not strong enough or the boss has resistance to it, you want to apply that mez to the minions and stun them or whatever while you chew down the boss with your damage. On the other hand, if you can mez the boss, you want to keep hitting the boss with that mez and stacking it. Because again, remember, if we go and look at our numbers here, for our abilities, wrong thing, each magnitude stacks. So this thing lasts now 6 seconds. So we punch this guy, we put a 2 magnitude stun on him, it lasts 6 seconds. A second later, we punch again, we put another 2 magnitude that lasts 5 seconds. So now, for the next 4 seconds, the 4 remaining from the first hit, he's got 4 magnitude stun on him, right? Now we punch again with a 3, right? It takes, say, 2 seconds to animate-ish. For the next 2 seconds, he's got 7 magnitude. 2 left over from the first hit. 2 seconds left over from the first hit. 3 seconds left over from the second hit. And then 8 seconds from this hit, right? And so that, if all of them trip, remember there's a % chance, but if all of them trigger, then you have 7 magnitude on the enemy. Now we have a 7.6, so that would not stun us. But bosses, I think, have a 6 mag defense. So that would stun them. And then you want to keep pounding at them, keep adding more magnitude with an additional timer on it, and letting that timer extend. You want to extend the stun and keep hitting with it to keep him from being able to hit you back, right? So if you can do that to a boss, and you can usually do it to a lieutenant, then it's worth it. For something like my martial arts super reflex scrapper, well, you know, martial arts only does knockback and knockdown with, there's 1 stun. This is one of the reasons people don't like it. There's a slow, there's a stun. There's 1 slow, there are 2 stuns. 1 knockback and 1 knockdown. So unlike this set where every single hit stacks disorient, martial arts is stacking different things. Now that's a huge disadvantage if you're trying to overcome a high mag defense, right? You only got 1 knockdown ability if it's only a 2 or 3 mag. If the guy's got 3+ mag defense against knockdown, you're never going to knock him down. Same thing with knockback. Now a lot of enemies have knockback resistance, but not necessarily knockdown resistance. So you can knock some of them down when you can't knock them back. So the disadvantage of martial arts is you can't easily stack it. The advantage of martial arts is that you can do 3 different types of mez, right? And 4, knockdown, knockback, slow if you want to get crippling axe kick, which I never do because I don't like crippling axe kick's animation, and then and you don't need it really, and then disorient, stun, like what this character has with Cobra Strike, and Eagle's Claw has a chance of applying it. So you have all these different ones. Most enemies have a weakness. You might not be able to knock them back, but you can stun them. You might not be able to stun them, but you can slow them. You might not be able to slow them, but you can knock them down, right? And so the nice thing about martial arts is, unless they have defense against all of it, you can get some mez in. The disadvantage is that you can't stack it. So you can't do, like, do it over and over and over again to make it so they can never come back from it, if that makes sense. So it just depends on the power set, right? Every power set kind of operates a little differently. So with martial arts, I was almost always going for the minions because you don't have a lot of mez in the set that's going to work well against bosses. But for this thing, where mez is part of our bread and butter, you want to apply that as much as possible. Alright, so now we're going to defeat the raid leader and his guards. We're going to Taliesin. So what you're seeing now is the story arcs are starting to become longer, and you get a lot more repeated missions, right? If you look at the early story arcs, they only have maybe 4, 5, 6 parts of the Wheel of Destruction, and each part is, well, there's three different parts to the wheel, right? And then there's finding out about the Wheel of Destruction in the first place, which is another part, that's 4. And then there's the finale, and then the recovering the stolen parts. And so there's a little bit of story meat to each mission, but as you get into the higher levels, because they were trying to, draw the story arcs out, you needed more XP to level, and they were having this issue, especially early on, that they only had 5 story arcs in the level 25 to 30 range. So each story arc had to kind of get you up to gain a level, and to do that, since each mission only does, if you're watching, maybe a bead at this point, you need a 10-part story arc. And so a lot of them become just, go defeat these guys, go defeat these guys, go defeat these guys and seek clues, go defeat these guys and seek clues, go defeat these guys and seek clues. And they sort of dragged it out. What do they call that in comic books, where they take a 1-issue story and they drag it out? Decompression. Which is literally just dragging it out so that we can sell more issues of a story that has no meat to it. And the way they do that in comic books these days is you'll have pages and pages with almost no, just little one-word balloon per panel, 3 or 4 words per panel, very little dialogue, and a lot of just art and visuals. Whereas if you go back and read a comic book from the 1970s, every single panel has like a solid paragraph of word balloons, and it used to take me like a half an hour to read a comic, and now I can read it, and I'm not a faster reader, but not really. I can read a comic book in like 10 minutes now because there's no meat to them, and that's because they're quote unquote decompressed. And to some degree, City of Heroes did that with these story arcs, right? They put a lot more just go see clues, just go see clues. If you go back and look at, say, the Dr. Lila story arc, there's not there are many. They're much shorter, right? And but there's no less story to them than there is to the General Z story. It's just that they made each and every mission really count compared to this story arc where a lot of the missions are just go see if there are any clues. Oh, you didn't find any. Go see if there are any clues. Okay, we still don't know. Go see if there are any clues. Okay, we learned a little bit more. Go look for more clues. Okay, go defeat this boss. We think he's got some information we can get from him, right? And then you build a story that's really got no more meat to it than Jake Templar's story, but it takes more missions. And the reason they did that was to give you more missions to do so that you would gain more XP in a story arc, right? Remember too, there was no XP bonus at the end of a mission, so all the XP came from beating up thugs. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, initially, oh boy, the yeah, I knew I wasn't gonna be able to get this guy before he. Oh, he didn't. I thought he. All right, I'm gonna go get this guy before he kneels here again. And I didn't actually do it, but he stopped anyway. Yeah, I think, again, somebody check me on this if I'm not mistaken, clicking on glowies didn't get you influence either. Now it does. Right? Now what happens is, when you click on a glowy, you get a little bit of influence. I don't think it used to do that. I think it used to give experience, not influence, and then they changed it. Or maybe it didn't give anything at all. I don't really remember. Well, these guys are going to be such a pain now if I can't stun them. Isn't there one more? Is he up here? I thought one more got away. Maybe not. Maybe I got him. Oh, no, there he is. I was pretty sure. So now we're getting a lot of Lieutenant Minion pairs, and the minions are almost always Raider Engineers. Click. A couple times now I've clicked a button and it doesn't seem to trigger. Maybe I'm accidentally mini dragging it, because you can drag them around. Yeah, these guys, at least each spawn has at least one guy who's either a wing or a portal, and they are going to run and make you chase. So this is definitely a mode of behavior for the Sky Raiders that you haven't seen as much of up until this point, where they try to run around, and part of what they're trying to do is what they actually do to the NPCs. To a certain degree, you almost see the NPCs doing what the developers were trying to get players to, sort of trick players into doing, or whatever, which is to get you to chase, and then you chase them into another spawn and aggro them. And you just have to have the presence of mind to realize that they're luring you, right? The mobs are programmed to try and lure you into a fight with another spawn. Right? And you just have to be, as much fury as your brute may have, you have to have the presence of mind to realize you do not want to be lured into another spawn. Especially not now. We're 27th level. We're at a stage where we're powerful, but it's very easy. It's sort of like the Luke Skywalker stage in The Empire Strikes Back, where Luke says, I've learned so much. And Ben and Yoda are trying to tell him, yes, but you're at a very vulnerable stage now. You're powerful enough to do this cool stuff, but you don't yet have the mental resistance and experience to resist the pull of the dark side. And we're kind of in the same boat, not that we have to worry about the dark side, but we're strong enough and powerful enough to be pretty awesome, but not quite strong enough to resist the types of like multi-spawn adding that can happen when you're chasing a porter or a wing commander around. When we're in our 30s and we have all of our slots in, right? Not just that we have SOs in the slots, but that we have everything 6 slotted, right? At that point, we can go diving into whole sea of orange cons, and it will be no problem. You can watch me doing it with Silver Phoenix in the upper 30s and sort of the later seasons of that playthrough. And so yeah, it's something that you become very overconfident. I do, and especially since I've played at the higher levels, and tempted to do things like chase him around, say, screw it, I don't care, I can just dive right into the next spawn. But as you saw in the previous episode when I got surrounded by a bunch of orange cons, this character isn't quite at the level with only 35% or so resistance, no defense yet. She really isn't at quite the level she needs to be. Her regen isn't up as high as it needs to be yet, where she could actually go and take multiple spawns of oranges. Eventually you can, but not quite yet. Now, you'd get there faster with a tanker, but we wouldn't be doing as much damage with a tanker. So some of it depends on the archetype, some of it depends on levels, some of it depends on power set. And all of those things affect how you're able to play the game, right? We started out with this character pulling stuff, right? And we did that early on. We were using these ranged attacks that I don't really need. I can get rid of this one now, actually, because we now can use taunt to pull if we need to. But we're not using taunt to pull. We're just using taunt to prevent the Raider engineers from pulling out that stupid shield, just because it makes everything more difficult, right? More frustrating with all the missing. But we don't have to pull. We don't have to sneak around. We don't dive in because we don't want the Raider engineer to pull its shield. Now, here we're going to have to taunt this guy and let him pull his shield and pull him around the corner. So this is one place where I've learned to pull. In that room, which I'll show you when we go in there. I don't think we've had this one with this playthrough yet. That room is designed as a lure. There are multiple spawns near the doorway, and if you dive in to fight one spawn, you will end up aggroing 2 more. At least 1 more and possibly 2 more, depending on where they're positioned. And if you watch my Silver Phoenix playthrough, she was, I don't know, level 29 or something. Her first real death was against, it must have been the 30s. I know it was her first real death, but it was one of her early deaths, was against Cray, which you get into in the 30s. And it was in this room where I just dove right in. I forgot about it. I dove right in, and I got hit by 2 lieutenants at the same time. So they didn't do it this time, but usually there's the spawn here that we pulled, and there's at least 1 more spawn here, and sometimes there's another spawn over here. And if you just dive in, you could aggro all of them. Right, here's the other spawn. Right, so these guys are right here. This is a patrol, I think. So there's usually a spawn here, and maybe a patrol. And you could get hit by all of them. And if you're not ready for it, that's an easy way to faceplant. Now, when Liberty Lass was a tank, in the 40s, a fire tank, yeah, I would come around this corner and just be like, come on. You could suck up the whole room of aggro and you'd be fine. There's 2 Raider engineers here. And I didn't click this fast enough. Let's taunt this guy. Usually once they start shooting, they do not go down on the knee. Now, as a stalker, you can be hidden, and you can come along and scout the room first, and then figure out who you want to hit when, or just bypass it if you want. Yeah, we actually talked about that in my channel. We chatted about in one of the comments. I actually made a video where I said, "What do you guys think is the best archetype for a new player to play, melee and ranged, right?" And I don't remember what everybody decided, but I've always felt that Stalker can be a very good archetype to start with if you want to sneak around and stuff, because you can see all of the aggro before you generate it, right? You never have to blunder into a spawn and not realize that there are enemies there and accidentally aggro things. You never do that you never have to do that as a stalker, because you can see everything before it happens. The disadvantage, of course, is that once your hide is canceled, you lose. There is some loss of effectiveness of the stalker's defense, because one of the powers in your defense pool is replaced with hide, and there is some loss of effectiveness in the primary, because is it the primary or the secondary? One of them, maybe it's the secondary. There's also placate. I can't remember is that in the primary or the secondary, guys. I can't remember. I think it's in the primary. So you lose that. You don't have taunt. You have placate, which means you can't pull things. It's very hard to pull as a stalker with your base powers. And also, if you're trying to do an escort mission, which they have a lot of, placate doesn't help you, and you don't have a way to taunt enemies off of your target. Now, the advantage of a stalker is you can go through the mission, you can kill everybody in the mission, defeat everybody in the mission, and then free your hostage. So the only thing you really have to worry about are the ambushes. I would definitely recommend giving it a try to play a stalker, just because, if you're new, because I think it can really help with being able to manage that aggro. That you, in other words, you decide what you, which enemies you anger. You decide which spawns you attack, right? You guys can stay right here. And you have ways to shed aggro, which can be very helpful. That's for soloing. Now be careful on groups with the stalker, because a lot of groups are impatient, and they can really frustrate stalkers because they just want to start going from spawn to spawn and pounding everything, right? The whole group gets into like scrapper lock, right? And that often prevents the stalker from being able to do the actual assassination. And that can both be frustrating and dangerous to the stalker. Where'd he go? He's over there. What's hilarious is they teleport away and then they run back. Teleport can be used very effectively, tactically in combat. The porters mostly don't use it that way. They're okay. Missed him. They're okay at it. There are better ways to use teleport than to just randomly teleport away and teleport back. The sorcerers do a better job, because they're not attackers. They're more buffers. They're more like defenders. And so the two sorcerers, they will teleport away. They will teleport away, and then when they teleport back, they'll heal somebody and then teleport away again, and teleport back and heal and teleport away. And that's a much better tactic, because it prevents them from getting hurt while they're healing, and they let their tank or scrapper, the two enforcers or whatever, they'll let them do the fighting, And that's a much more effective tactic. Alright, so we got another clue. So we get prototype parts, research records, and all this stuff. And all of this is going to be incriminating the Sky Raiders. By the way, Sky Raiders, very cool name. There are lots of really interesting and cool factions in City of Heroes. Banished Pantheon, Sky Raiders are a cool name, and they're cool name and cool uniforms. Their powers are kind of boring. The porters are mildly interesting. Most of the rest of them, it's just they fly, they shoot, and they punch, and they stab. And that's kind of it, which is a little boring. Alright, so I think that's pretty good, guys. That's another episode down. We are 4 beads, almost 5 beads into level 27. We have a bunch of enhancements that we can sell, and then before selling them, we have 81,000 influence. So let me pause it here. I'll sell them off, and we'll see how much influence we have left. Alright, so after selling the enhancements, we have 114,000 influence. We've got these level 28 things. I may see if the auction house wants some of these. Probably not. What I don't know is whether these things can be upgraded to a higher level when you click the upgrade button. If anybody knows, go ahead and let us know, because that's actually important. If they can be upgraded, then you could sell the lower level ones probably for a decent price, because then people could just buy them and upgrade them. But I don't know. That sounds too easy to me, and like it might kind of defeat the whole purpose of salvage in the auction house. But and recipes and stuff, but I don't know. So if anybody knows the answer to that, let me know. Until next time, guys, I am Scrapperlock, and this has been City of Heroes.